Nothing kicks off Halloween like a good horror story. So when Netflix debuted Midnight Mass, we're left to wonder, is Midnight Mass a good horror story and a good story in general? Let's talk about it. Midnight Mass is set in a small, and when I say small, I mean very small, town of over maybe 170 people, I do believe. And it's set on an island. And that's perfect, and it punctuates the story perfectly, because Midnight Mass, while it is a mystery and a horror story and very supernatural, it's a story about loneliness. And it punctuates the feeling of isolation and being lonely so well with its setting. Netflix has been really interesting, kind of hit or miss when it comes to horror. If we remember The Haunting of Hill House, it was amazing. It's talked about, I loved it. But then when they came out with Bly Manor, it was more like Blah Manor, because it was really, really boring. So this is their third attempt, same team, developing this particular story, and I have to say straight out the gate, I enjoyed it. Midnight Mass does something very, very cool with an old idea, and I really appreciated it. And what carries the story along, because it is kind of a slow burn, is the performances. In particular, Zach Gilford as Riley Flynn gave a really, really standout performance, to the point where the first few episodes really hang on him, but the real breakout performance in this entire series has to be from Hamish Linklater, who plays Father Paul Hill. He gives such a convincing performance as a small town Catholic priest that it's really hard to really engage with the other characters when he's not in a scene. He does it in such a way that when he's on screen and he's talking, whether he's delivering a monologue, of which there are many, but we'll get to that, or he's talking to other characters, or really just trying to get a point across, the way that he emotes and the way that he delivers his lines is just amazing. Like, I've seen this actor in other things. In particular, last time I saw him, he played a smaller part in the Apple miniseries. It was a remake of The Stand, and I liked him there, but his role wasn't really enough for me to really see him, but this definitely does him justice. Also, as far as the performances, they have a villain in this series, and this isn't a spoiler, you'll understand immediately when you start watching it, that does such a good job where you just hate this character. Her name is Bev Keane, and she is played by Samantha Sloyan, and oh my goodness, she is just horrible. She's everything bad about small town living if you've ever lived in a small town, and she plays the role to the T. With that being said, so let's get into it. So this series, the way it is presented is that you're originally following the character of Riley Finn, who has been put in prison and is just now getting out of prison for a crime that was committed while he was drunk. So automatically you have that level of isolation that comes with prison and being institutionalized, following this character around while he's basically going back home to live with his parents on the small island. Now, with that being said, this is a fishing town that has had its ups and downs, more downs than ups, and most of the people are just trying to get through their everyday life. The cast, even though it's in a small town, is pretty racially diverse, surprisingly. But hey, things happen. People end up in places for various reasons. What's very interesting about the series is that it does tackle some social issues, but not from a perspective of this is the right way and this is the wrong way, but more of this is my experience in living in the skin that I'm in. This is what has gone on in my life. And I really appreciate that, because it's never actually super heavy-handed when it comes to certain topics. In particular, it deals with certain LGBT issues in a very, very measured way, almost as if you weren't really paying attention, you wouldn't notice, but it does deal with them in a way that you deal with with those type of issues in your everyday life, where they're not necessarily the focus of your life, but when they do arise, you handle them in a measured and appropriate adult fashion. And that's how this particular series deals with those issues. It also deals with certain racial issues, but not in the way that you might think. I definitely don't think that this was a heavy on message type of series, and I'm actually proud of the team and Netflix for kind of holding back, because Bly Manor did not hold back at all, and that's part of the reason why it was so irritating and boring to watch. And I feel like they really corrected a lot of those issues in this particular series. As far as special effects go, they are done extremely well. I don't know what the budget was for this particular series, but it doesn't look like they spared any expense on practical effects, and it shows. It's really well done. And there are a lot of special effects. Like I say, telling you would be a spoiler, so I'm not going to do that. But rather, I would say when going into this, the scares in particular are done well. They're not like really jump scares, but they're very eerie and very unsettling. So when the scare actually happens, it's a build up to it, and then it happens. And that's what I really appreciated about it. As far as the horror aspects were concerned, the story is well done. Now, one thing I definitely have to talk about, and it's not necessarily a negative, but it is something that I didn't particularly appreciate it as the show went on, and that is the really long monologues. And I mean long monologues. Like, you'll have a character just like, they'll be in the presence of another character just talking and talking as if that person almost isn't there. It's not how conversations work. And I realize that it's character development and it's trying to set up a lot of backstory, and exposition, but it happens far too often. I mean, these monologues are longer than a One Piece fan's delusion. It is long, but I digress. Other than like that little thing, it's a great story about family and a great story about small, tight-knit communities and how they form and how they grow. But more importantly, it is a story about loneliness. Each character deals with loneliness in their own way, and it's really shown throughout the characters' story arcs throughout this series. There's not a lot of fat in this series. It runs lean, and yet it seems to get its point across fairly well. Other than the long monologues, it's really the only thing I really had against the series. If I had to put a number on it, I would give this a solid 9 out of 10. Definitely go watch Midnight Mass. You will not be disappointed, and it's definitely a great watch for Halloween, guys. So we're going to see you on the next one. If you feel like we've earned your like or your subscription, please like and subscribe. Definitely share the video if you found this helpful. We'll see you on the next one. 8-Bit Heroes out. Peace.